Hi, my name is Barry Sterling Mitchell. I produce the Sterling Net Point Power Rankings and the Bias Plus reports, and this is Ben and Barry on football.
Hello out there, this is Ben Dickerson, your co-host. So over the last few weeks, we've been talking about each individual position group in the NFL and how they're ranked against each other by Pro Football Focus. Today, we're going to do half of a position group that's very near and dear to my heart because of my love for fantasy football. That would be the wide receiver group. So today, we're going to go backwards in the Pro Football Focus rankings from number 32 up to number 16, and then next week we'll do the top 15.
But now, as we just kind of kick the show off, Ben, we've been talking football for 40 years. We usually like to throw a couple things out in the beginning. I talked to one Mr. Clement this morning, early this morning. And, we had that conversation about your running backs, because now his son, Mr. Corey Clement, is a giant. And so it was funny. Two things happened. Number one, in talking about Corey, it's interesting. Corey came out in 2017. The other back, he was from Wisconsin. The other back in the backfield was Mr. Dare Ogunbowale.
I remember him.
That. Remember him?
I remember him.
And the thing about that Wisconsin team was that they used to run, I used to say, Corey up the middle left, up the middle right. You know what I mean? And then they give the jet sweep to Ogunbowale, And I always thought Corey could run that jet sweep pretty well, but that's what they use him for. So they both come out at the same time. And, when you're talking to dad's like, my son, is he getting a fair shot? Is he, and he's all worried about him. And we're looking at his career, right? Because we've been, following Corey since he was in, Little League. So I said, look, man, think about it this way. Let's look at the career of Mr. Ogunbowale, okay? Just real quick, okay? And this is kind of instructive for anyone understanding what it might take to be in the NFL. So first of all, they both were undrafted free agents. Okay, both Corey and Dare, right? Dare comes out, he gets drafted.
He gets signed
by the Texans. Okay, waived. He was like signed in May. He's waived in September, signed to the practice squad, and released in October. That's like his first month on the job. Signed to the Tampa Bay Bucks practice squad, released in December of 2017. He goes to the Redskins. He signed there on the practice squad, promoted to an active roster before being waived in 2018, right? 2018, signed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, waived on September 1st, re-signed to the practice squad. He was released from the practice squad, re-signed on the 31st of October in 2018, promoted to the active roster, and then waived in November, re-signed to the practice squad, and then signed a reserve futures contract with the Bucks, right? This is what's crazy. He went to the Jacksonville Jaguars after that, right? But he signed with Tampa Bay, I believe. Here it is. Yeah, he signed with Tampa Bay again, but was waived in September of 2020.
Okay.
So he got waived in September of the year that they won the Super Bowl. As opposed to Corey, who basically played most of his time, those 3 years, with one team, right? Goes to the Super Bowl, wins the Super Bowl,
Has a significant play in the Super Bowl.
Had significant play, a touchdown, scored a touchdown in the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? But both of them are still at that point in their career where they still have to kind of scratch and claw to maintain their place. you know?
Yeah, but it's two different kinds of scratching and clawing, for lack of a better phrase. First of all, the way they were used at Wisconsin kind of set the table for how NFL teams were going to look at them when they first came into the NFL. Corey was basically Mr. Inside, and the other guy was basically Mr. Outside. And then, obviously, because neither of them were drafted, there were some questions in some NFL owners or GMs' minds. They get into camps, at which point they can prove, yes, I can do this. Yes, I can do that. I would think that every running back that signs with an NFL team, whether they're drafted or not, is coming in to try to prove that they can be an every down back. I mean, who comes into the NFL with the intention of being a third down back? You know what I mean? So you come in, so that means you have to prove yourself. You have to prove that if all you ran was outside runs and jet sweeps and took swing passes in college, you have to prove that you can run the ball on first and second down, off tackle, up the middle. If all you did was run off tackle and up the middle, you have to prove that you can get outside and turn the corner and make yardage on the outside. I think Corey, over the course of his short career, has proven that he can do that, as well as catch the ball out of the backfield. The other gentleman obviously has not, because if he did, he'd have been on more active rosters and not hanging around on practice squads. I think he's hanging around on practice squads because he has the physical ability. He has enough physicality. He's probably either going to stay on practice squads for injury emergency purposes, or be assigned to special teams possibly, which would actually be better, because if you're on the active roster and you're on special teams, that gives you another opportunity to kind of prove yourself. It's really hard to prove yourself when you're on the practice squad. On the practice squad, you're basically like break glass in case of emergency.
Interesting. And then, we try to look at things from both the finance, and the football piece of it. And so we were talking about Mr. Devontae Booker. And so Mr. Booker signed a contract, looks like a total about 3.5 mil. And he got a bonus up front of about $1 million, which is, his bonus was more than what Corey makes. I think Corey's at the 900,000, somewhere in that. So my thought is that they looked at him a little more seriously as being the next court running back up after Saquon, in terms of the way they signed those guys. Either that, or they simply negotiated harder on Corey.
No, he's a veteran. First of all, he's a veteran player. He's been around longer. Second of all, he's had some stints as a starting running back with Denver. So he's got a little bit more on his resume.
So there you go. So the interesting thing for Corey is then he's sandwiched between Devontae Booker, right, in terms of backing up Saquon. Now, Ben, this is your team, so you can fill me in. The guy on the back end that I'm looking at, you got to watch out for, is named Platzengummer.
Come on, man. Come on, man.
I watched him. I'm like, oh, yeah, there he is.
All right,
he got a little bit of playing time.
There's still cuts to be made.
There's a lot of cuts to be made.
Yeah.
I think they just got down to 85, and they have to, what? Are we going to 53 this year, or did they give them?
I believe I heard the number 53 is the final number again. Yes, which I was surprised, because I thought they would increase it at least a little bit, because they've added another game to the schedule. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. That might be something that didn't pass through during the negotiations, but
All right. Well, remember the name Platzengummer, and we'll come back to it.
No, I won't remember.
Your coach talked very nicely about him.
I remember when I hear he got
cut. Him a lot.
I remember when I hear he got cut.
All right, all right. Let's move on to this list. All right. Now you put together your information, and I know you worked really hard on this, so I'm gonna turn this over to you, and then I'll follow up with you with what I have on the contracts for these clubs. Okay, go.
Okay, so we're going to start with number 32. This is the bottom rank, and let me remind everybody, as I do each week, these rankings are by Pro Football Focus. They are not Ben's rankings. I agree with some of them. I disagree with some others as far as what number they are, where they are exactly ranked. Some I think should be higher, some I think it should be lower, but I'm just going to give you the information from what I found through research and let you determine. But listen up for your team and your squad and your receivers, and tell me in the comment section if you agree or not, okay? So number 32 is the Houston Texans. Now, let's start off by saying 7-year vet Brandon Cooks is the clear number one wide receiver on this team. He still has legit speed and solid hands. Chris Conley is a veteran player, and Anthony Miller, also a veteran player, are, I don't know, fair to average at best, with 40 and 49 receptions last season, respectively. They're good receivers, not great. They've been around for a little while, so I would have to say they're pretty solid. A veteran on this team already, Keke Coutee. I love that name, Keke Coutee. Before I heard somebody on television pronounce his name, I saw him on fantasy. I picked him up one year because whatever team he was on, a guy got hurt and he stepped up into a starting role. And I kept going, KK Coutee. I had no clue. Anyway, he's got good speed, he's got good quickness, but he can't stay healthy. So it's going to be tough for him to get a real role on this squad. But a lot of this is expected. A lot is expected out of third-round rookie Nico Collins. Now, he's a third-round pick, so, you know, they're not going to bank on him a lot. But he has an opportunity to crack the lineup or at least get some good playing time. So Nico Collins is a guy to look out for on this team. But right now, Brandon Cooks is the man, and everybody else is kind of filling in.
Brandon Cooks is the man. Yes, absolutely. And in terms of the contracts, he's the man also. I have listed here, and you can help edit me if need be, Brandon Cooks, Nico Collins, Keke Coutee, Chris Conley, Alex Erickson, and Anthony Miller. Those are the people, the backs that I included contract information on. Relative, we talk about kind of where if everyone kind of has around the same level of contracts, you know, versus someone has a big amount outstanding over everybody else. 4 of the 6 are in that 1 to 1.5 million. Only Collins is under $1 million. Brandon Cooks is 5.6 of their $11.5 million cap hit this week. And like you could give your disclaimer, I always mention that contracts have so many variables and factors that the one thing that is kind of consistent is the cap hit. They move things around, you know, as necessary. Funny, I was just looking at Jamal Adams' contract. Before he signed his new contract, his cap hit for 2021 was $9 million. Under the new contract, it's $5 million.
So he got a new contract, and the team helped itself out by the way they structured the contract.
Right.
Yeah.
So that, and again, that doesn't mean that player didn't get more money. You know, he might have gotten some money outside of the cap hit, but that's kind of the games that they play. And I wouldn't even try to cover all of those variables in this. So straight cap hit, 11.5 mil for the Texans at number 32. And they're not the least paid group of DBs, but they're not the highest either. Who's up next?
Up next, number 31 is the Detroit Lions. Now, the Detroit Lions lost their number 1 and number 2 receivers to free agency. That would be Kenny Golladay going to the Giants and Marvin Jones out of there also. So they're basically rebuilding their wide receiver core, but they're doing it with size and big play potential type guys. Tyrell Williams, if that name's not familiar, he used to play for the San Diego Chargers, who are now the LA Chargers. He's 6'4". He's made some big catches in his days as a Charger and Raider. Yeah, he played for the Raiders last. That's correct. And he sat out 2020 with a torn labrum. So they're expecting him to come back and hopefully be the guy that he was before he got hurt. 6'2", Brashad Perryman has bounced around a bit from Baltimore to Cleveland to Tampa Bay and to the New York Jets. But he's still around and he's shown the ability to make big plays. But he's never had more than 36 catches in a season. So I don't know how much improvement we're going to see there, especially from a guy that's been around that long. 4th round rookie, Amon-Ra St. Brown is expected to compete for snaps. But again, a 4th round rookie would be a surprise if he would have cracked the starting lineup and or work his way into significant playing time.
Amon-Ra St. Brown, great name. Him and Quintez Cephas, both at about 856K. Khalif Raymond at 987. Geronimo Allison at, again, 987. Tyrell and Brashard are the 2 main that make up about 5 of the 9.1 million. So again, they're not one of the higher paid backfields. So there's a lot of room there. We'll be able to watch that as that grows. All right. So who's up next, Benny?
Up next, this might be a surprise to some people and a disappointment to others. It is not a surprise to me. That next team is number 30, the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, Pro Football Focus has ranked the Eagles receiver core last in the last 2 years. Consequently, the Eagles have selected wide receivers in the 1st round in back-to-back years. So 2nd-year guy Jalen Reagor, to me, still has a lot to prove. This year's rookie, Devontae Smith, who was picked 10th overall, has tremendous potential, separation skills, and very dangerous speed and moves, especially after the catch. Travis Fulgham was a bright spot last year. He only had 38 catches, but he had him for a team-leading 539 yards. Also, I would like to say, please, 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 especially Eagles fans, keep an eye out for 2020 6th round pick Quez Watkins. He can fly.
I don't have Quez in my list here, but I can look him up. I don't know if I'm assuming he's an undrafted free agent. You know anything about his draft status?
Yeah, he was a 6th round pick in 2020.
6th round pick. Okay, so he's a drafted guy. All right, so didn't include him. Tell me who maybe is in here I shouldn't have in here. I got Jalen Reagor, Devonta Smith, Travis Fulgham, Arcega-Whiteside.
Well, in the picture, you've got Greg Ward up there. He's still on the team.
Greg Ward, he's in the list. And John Hightower.
Yeah, Hightower has some value also, but he's kind of on the edge. Arcega-Whiteside, I don't think is worth even mentioning.
Well, they paid him 1.3 mil. So
yeah, well, guess what? Teams make mistakes.
They have a $10 million group there, wide receiver, not including Quez. And we'll, continue to see how he works out because, like I said, his speed looked pretty evident. I did have in my mind, I don't know if he was just running away from the 1st, 2nd, or 3rd team, but he was running away from whoever was on the field.
I don't care who he's running away from. That dude can fly.
You know anything about his 40 time?
No, I don't. But he got football speed. I'll tell you that.
That's what you need. You need football speed, no doubt. All right, so that's about a $10 million wide receiver room there. Who's up next?
Up next, number 29 is the New York Jets. This will be interesting, probably only to Jets fans and fantasy football players, but I don't really know what to say about the Jets as a team, but let's just talk about the wide receiver core. So they're looking to improve, obviously, and they started by acquiring free agent Corey Davis, who's coming off of a career year with the Tennessee Titans. 2020 second rounder, he'll be lined up across opposite Davis is Jamison Crowder. And Jamison Crowder has been, I think he played with the Washington football team before joining the Jets. He's a solid playmaker. He'll man the slot. Second round rookie Elijah Moore is a very explosive playmaker out of the slot, and he can also play outside. So they'll be looking for a lot from Elijah Moore, being a fairly high draft pick. They're a little thin as far as an amount of really great talent or depth. That depth is the word I was looking for. But I got a funny feeling Elijah Moore is going to make a pretty good showing for them.
All right. Well, in terms of the cap hit, there's a big step up from the previous three teams where you have a total wide receiver room there, including Corey Davis, Denzel Mims, Jamison Crowder, Elijah Moore, Keelan Cole, and Braxton Berrios, 24.9, just under that million. Distributed, Corey Davis has 9.3 of that, Jamison has 6.3, and Keelan has 5.5. So Elijah, Denzel at a little over a mil and a half, and Braxton just under at 850. So that's not bad to have a top three like that, though. That's a pretty nicely paid top three, and I think they should be competitive, you know.
And the crazy thing is, Corey Davis was kind of an afterthought for his first couple of years and might have even been labeled as a bust. But last season, playing with the Titans, obviously Tannehill has gotten his career back together. And then you got A.J. Brown on the other side. Corey Davis took advantage of that and had himself a career season. Now the question is, can he carry that over to the Jets?
Corey Davis he's not the player who caught that ball like on the 10-yard line and bulldozed himself into the end zone last year. Remember
that was A.J. Brown.
Okay, all right. I remember somebody from the Titans did that. All right. So 24, almost a $25 million wide receiver group. Next up,
number 28 is the New Orleans Saints. Let me start by saying this team might be in a little bit of trouble when it comes to their wide receiver core. I will tell you why. Michael Thomas missed 10 games last season with injuries and is now on the PUP list. That's not good for your number one guy that you depend on quite a bit. And he's not expected back at least until week 5. That means that Traquan Smith has been, who's been a reliable number 3 guy, now has to step up and be number 1, especially through camp and through the first couple weeks of the season. Wow. The rest of the room is filled with unproven young guys. Marquez Callaway, Deontay Harris, Lil Jordan Humphrey, and Juwan Johnson. If you haven't heard of any of these guys, you're not the only one out there. They're young. Somebody's got to step up. Saints receiver core is not looking good right now. Not good.
Funny thing is that the short game, which Jameson was learning from Drew Brees, so reliant on Michael Thomas and his ability to run those short and intermediate routes to get open real quick so he can get that ball out real quick, you know? So that with him not being there, and you still have the running back, you know, who is going to be a big outlet for them. But you're absolutely right. Michael Thomas, man, that's 10 million of the 15.7 million total cap for those wide receivers. Michael Thomas is 10 of them. So everybody else, other than Traquan, who got 2.3, is under $1 million. Those other guys, Marquez, Deontay, Lil Jordan, and Juwan, all under $1 million. So, you know, unproven talent, they step up. It'll be a great value for the Saints. But that's going to be yet to be proved. So that'll be an interesting team to keep an eye on relative to their wide receivers. Who do we name for tight ends for them? Do you remember?
I don't know. It slips my mind right now. All I can remember is that Jared Cook is not there anymore. Why they let him go, I don't know. He's a veteran. He's well into his 30s, but the guy still got juice. So why they let him go, I don't know. Obviously, they've saved some money, but I would not rule out them trying to find a veteran receiver out there sitting on the couch watching TV, or possibly make a move to bring somebody in until Michael Thomas gets back. Like I said, I believe they think he will be back, rehabbed, and ready by week 5, which is not terrible. That would put Traquan back in a more comfortable number 2 role, and they should be able to go from there. But I wouldn't rule out them picking somebody up.
Hey, Ben, you said that they might be looking to pick up a wide receiver?
Yes, possibly.
Saw an interview this week with T.O. He says he thinks at 52 he can make a comeback.
Yeah, Ocho Cinco said he'll play for free.
For free.
He'll play for free. He said, you don't have to sign me to a contract. Give me a car and some place to stay, and I'll play for free.
Wow. I had not heard that one. But yeah, T.O. said he thinks he can come back. He says he knows his body, you know, and T.O. was always a health freak. So there's your 52 and over league. All right. Who's up next?
Up next, we have number 27, the Las Vegas Raiders. Oh, wow. Las Vegas Raiders. So we got plenty of speed here, but one of your favorites, Henry Ruggs III, has had problems with drops.
No.
John Brown, don't do that now. John Brown has signed in free agency away from Buffalo, another speedster. They call him Smoke, okay? But he fought injuries all of last season. So it's going to be something to sit back and wait for and see how healthy he comes back. Hunter Renfrow can get deep out of the slot, but he mostly works the underneath stuff. And Willie Snead IV comes over from Baltimore, and he'll compete for snaps. I think I saw something on Twitter about Hunter Renfrow scorching Jalen Ramsey in a scrimmage just the other day. So yeah,
I saw it. It was a hesitation, up and out, or out and up rather. Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, he ran a nice route. He can go. These guys, they got plenty of speed. The problem is speed is no good if the guys in the secondary are playing a zone defense and they know that you're fast and you can't get separation or run a good enough route to create separation for yourself so that the quarterback can throw you the ball. You can't just run go routes all day long. That's not going to get it. So they're going to have to get better.
You know, it's funny when you mentioned go routes. Maybe during, while we're talking this, we can pepper in a few things about the past weekend. But one of the things I noticed on third down across the league, they were just basically running go routes, and what you're saying is, yeah, the defense just dropped back, and then I'm watching these second and third string guys trying to force a ball in on the guy who's covered. It happened a lot this past weekend. So I guess everybody's holding their playbook back, you know what I mean? They're not going to show too much.
Yeah, that's part of it.
But I'm like, man, you got to have a little something, a guy come across the middle or something to kind of force the defense to play a little different and just drop back, and pick up a man. So, all right, Henry Ruggs, come on, man. You're getting 7 of the 17 million. John Brown and Keelan Das, 3 million apiece. Willie Snead about 2.7, and 850 approximately for Brian Edwards and Hunter Renfrow. So they're going to need Ruggs to live up to that $7 million cap hit. You know what I'm saying? And catch some of those balls. Now, again, you might drop a few if you're most of the balls you're catching are like bombs. So you're not going to get a lot of gimmies there. But yeah, I know that speed is going to be interesting because they still have that tight end, Mr. Waller, that if they can open up that field, he'll have a field day out there. All right. Patriots, moving on to who's next?
Yeah, number 26, the New England Patriots. Let's see. Wow. So the Patriots signed 2 free agents to help their slumping receiver core. They were not very good last year. They grabbed Nelson Aguilar in free agency away from the Raiders. He comes over after a pretty strong 2020 season. And they also grabbed Kendrick Bourne, who was a free agent and had a very solid possession receiver type season with your San Francisco 49ers. I like Aguilar. He seems to have redeemed himself from his Eagles days. And I also like Kendrick Bourne as a possession receiver. I like the way he runs routes, gets open. He seems to have really good hands. Jakobi Meyers has proven to be a solid player, making the best of limited opportunities. So he hasn't really gotten on the field as much, I'm sure, as he's liked. But N'Keal Harry has struggled with route running, and he's not lived up to the expectations of the Patriots. They thought that N'Keal Harry was going to come in and kind of make noise right away. He has not done that. I believe Jakobi Meyers has moved ahead of him. Unless he does better in camp this year, you're going to see their roles reverse, I think, and you'll see Jakobi Meyers getting those opportunities that he didn't get last year, and N'Keal Harry's opportunities beginning to get lower. But look out for Aguilar and Bourne. I think they'll be solid if Cam can find them.
Well, absolutely. And, you know, that's why the pictures you have here, they're not actually Patriot pictures.
That's correct.
And let me remind everyone, this is Gillette Stadium in the background here, because they'll be playing the Eagles tonight, as a matter of fact. This is Thursday. We are what, August 19th, 2021. Interesting that Aguilar got an $8.7 million cap hit approximately, and Bourne is 3.3. You've always mentioned Bourne. You talked about him with the Niners a number of times. Yes. I think you were way more high on Bourne than I was, actually. Jakobi Meyers and N'Keal Harry, 1.9 for Myers, 1.3 for N'Keal. And that competition is probably, well, shouldn't say probably, but comes at a time when N'Keal is acting or saying he wants to be traded. You know, I was a little disappointed. I mean, it just didn't show a competitive spirit. You know what I mean? To me, say all of a sudden you want to be traded.
So, and I agree with you. So if you tack that on to the fact that hardly anybody asked to be traded away from the Patriots, makes you wonder about the player, right?
Especially when they just brought in a load of talent and they're not telling you they're trying to cut you. You know what I mean? They're looking for you to step up, you know, and be a part of that. Because there's plenty to go around with the Patriots.
If they feel it necessary to bring these guys in, there's a reason for that, dude. He can go back and look at his own production. It's on paper. He can Google it just like we can. Come on, bro. Get it together.
So much. All right. Who's up next?
Number 25 is the Indianapolis Colts. So Colts have been mentioned as possible Super Bowl contenders because of some of their other position groups. Let's take a look at the wide receiver group. The Colts bring back their entire receiving core from last season, but they seem to lack a true number one. T.Y. Hilton is still effective, but he seems to have lost some of his explosiveness, and that's just off the eye test from watching them last year. Zach Pascal played mostly out of the slot, and he's been solid. Michael Pittman is the guy that I really like. He had a fine rookie season, and he should improve. He should improve. I really like Michael Pittman. I've been when I watch the Colts, I watch Michael Pittman. I watch how he runs his routes. He's got really good hands. He's got real good size too. So I think he's going to be really stepping up. 2019 second rounder Paris Campbell is also there. He's going to be competing for snaps. I don't think he's on the bubble or anything. I think he'll get time. But Pittman is a guy that I expect to really step up. T.Y. Hilton will need to step up at least a little bit and get a little bit closer to where he was earlier in his career for them to really be good.
How many years does T.Y. have about in the league now?
I'm not exactly sure, but I'm venturing to guess 5 or 6 he's pushing.
They have a $16.9 million cap hit in this group of wide receivers. I didn't hear you mention Ashton Dulin or Tariq Black. I included them to get up to 6 because I wanted to make sure I included 6 receivers. But T.Y. Hilton is 8.7 of the 16.9 million. So if he's not as explosive, this is he's going to have to show. You're saying that, but this is the time for him to show that he's worth almost half of their wide receiver room cap space. So that's going to be interesting. T.Y. Hilton still got it. Can you do the T.Y. thing? I'm killing my keyboards here. All right. What do we got up next?
Number 24, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Yes, they are ranked number 24 over some teams that some people may be surprised are under them. After a quiet rookie season, DJ Chark exploded on the scene in 2019 with 73 receptions for 1,008 yards and 8 touchdowns. Kind of came back down to earth last season, but he's established himself as the number 1 wide receiver on that team. Then they went to free agency and grabbed Marvin Jones away from the Detroit Lions. So he comes over from the Lions with a proven record of success on contested catches. He's one of those guys that makes that Moss type catch, okay? That tightly covered, tightly contested catch. That's Marvin Jones's strength. So
he had one of them this past weekend, didn't he?
He probably did. I didn't actually watch that game, but I would believe that he did. I would believe that he did because that's what he does. Now, Laviska.
As a matter of fact, if you don't mind me mentioning real quick, it was one of those passes where Trevor Lawrence had taken a sack. And one of the things that they like about Trevor Lawrence is he can take a sack and be 3rd and long and deliver. And it was one of those passes, I think, that Marvin Jones caught.
Okay. Well, Trevor Lawrence is number 1 pick overall. He better get himself together. Sack shouldn't bother him at all. You shake that off and you come right back and make a play.
Then he's doing it.
That's what they're paying him for. So Laviska Shenault had a solid rookie season in 2020, but he hasn't shown he can be effective downfield. Now, if he's able to settle in to a short, intermediate type possession type guy, that's great. That's wonderful. Marvin Jones can kind of do both, but he's more of an intermediate type dude. DJ Chark, obviously, like I said, is the young question number 1 there. So I think that's going to work out. That's a nice little group they've got there. If Jacksonville can get their running game going and Trevor Lawrence can get protected, they can make some noise. They can move up in the rankings.
But the Jaguars are not paying a ton of money to this group of wide receivers. They're $11.6 million against the cap this year. They probably had some creative contract things going on. But Marvin Jones Jr. is 4.7 of it, DJ Chark 2.5, and Laviska Shenault 1.7.
Right.
The other 2 that I have listed are Colin Johnson and Tavon Austin.
Tavon Austin, please don't mention that name again, ever.
Him and Collins got about 850,000. So that's 11.6 million for the Jags.
Yeah, they're hanging around. They're stealing money. Marvin Jones obviously is the veteran of this group. That's why he's going to pull down the most cash. He's the one with the biggest and best resume. But Chark is on his way to getting himself a nice contract if he continues on the trajectory that he's on now.
All right, Mr. Chark on the trajectory, the Chark trajectory. So What number are we up to, Mr. Dickerson?
We are up to number 23, and number 23 is the Baltimore Ravens, a team that we've talked about a lot as possible Super Bowl contenders, as definite contenders in the AFC North, being a tough division, possibly the second toughest division, arguably the first toughest division besides the NFC West, and what they need to get them over the hump. A run-centric team that I constantly say has to improve their passing game. So here's where we're at. They know they have to improve their wide receiver core to bring more balance to their offense. Right now, they're looking at Marquise Brown as their unquestioned deep ball threat, but not necessarily a number one wide receiver. They drafted rookie Rashad Bateman in the first round in hopes of his skills translating to number one status in the NFL. He was a very good college player. They're hoping that this guy will explode onto the scene. They also signed free agent Sammy Watkins away from the Kansas City Chiefs. He's shown spectacular flashes, but he's battled injuries for most of his career. Miles Boykin, disappointed last year, and fourth round rookie Tylan Wallace hopes to compete for snaps. So I don't think they are where they want to be, but they will get closer to that if Marquise Brown continues to improve and Rashad Bateman is the real deal. And last I heard, Rashad Bateman's got an injury of some sort, hamstring or groin or something. So they'll probably take it on easy on him in the preseason and try to make sure that he's ready for week one.
It's interesting when I'm looking at these wide receivers and what you said about Sammy Watkins battling injuries, not quite being that guy. We all know Sammy Watkins has a lot of talent. We've seen him, do some pretty effective stuff as a receiver. Of the $13.4 million in cap hit between Watkins, Rashad, Marquise Brown, Miles Boykin, Tylan Wallace, and Devin Duvernay, Sammy is 5 of that. Rashad and Marquise are another 5 of that. Miles and Devin are 2, and Tulane is 831,000. So pretty even distribution. But when you start to look at some of the teams with a big time wide receiver and look at some of those contract hits, which we'll do, it's interesting that the way you said it, it's kind of like the team was maybe a bit muted on him also. They realize he's not, that guy. So, all right, 13.4 mil for the Ravens.
Yeah, Sammy, just real quick, Sammy is he's not as fast as he used to be. The injuries are taking their toll. I don't believe, in my estimation, he was never a great route runner, but because of his speed and his elusiveness, he showed really great flashes when he was with the Bills in the beginning of his career and early on with the Chiefs. But lately, yeah, these injuries are starting to pile up on him, and they're not just keeping him off the field. They're starting to deteriorate at his skills. So I don't know. I don't know what we're going to get out of Sammy.
All right. Well, $5 million is not the biggest investment. Who's up next?
Up next, let's see who we got here. I'm sorry, I had to turn the page on some notes I'm keeping. Number 22 is the Chicago Bears.
The Bears.
Yeah, the Bears. A very interesting team, not only because of what's going on quarterback-wise with them and whether or not, you believe what's coming out in the news. Well, I don't think anybody really cares except for people that really like Justin Fields. But Bears fans may care quite a bit because the coach seems to be settled on Andy Dalton, and he's going to make Justin Fields kind of wait his turn. But, coach speak is funny. You never know what they're talking about. But when it comes to the receiving core, Allen Robinson is one of the best all-round pass receivers in the league. He's basically been carrying this group for the past 3 seasons, averaging 100 receptions and 1,200 receiving yards over the past 2 seasons. That's his average over the past 2 seasons. The Bears have struck gold with last year's 5th-round pick. Seldom do you strike gold with a 5th-round pick, but my man Darnell Mooney caught 61 balls for 631 yards. You just don't expect something like that kind of production out of a 5th-round pick, but they got it from Darnell Mooney. He shined so bright that when I had an injury to a starting receiver on fantasy, I grabbed him and he helped me. He definitely helped me. The rest of the room is full of speedsters. That could be good. That could be okay. That could be not so good. The main thing is they're fast, but they don't have a lot of production. One of these guys is one of your favorites on Madden, Marquise Goodwin. Marquise Goodwin is now with the Bears. Super fast, very little production. Damiere Byrd used to play for the New England Patriots. They let him go. Super fast, not a lot of production. Both of them are 4.3 guys, by the way. Riley Ridley and Javon Wims are also pretty good, fast guys, possible deep threats. But again, no production on their resume. They'll compete for snaps. Obviously, Allen Robinson and Mooney are the nice 1-2 punch there for the Bears. And whoever else can maybe grab the slot position or the other outside position, because I think Mooney can play both, then, they'll be waiting to see if that guy can step up.
Yeah, my man, Marquise Goodwin. Yes, loved him in Madden. It's where I came to the conclusion that the type of offense that the Niners ran really didn't help him at all relative to the numbers. Kind of offense I ran on Madden, he was great. So, but Allen Robinson, of the 22.7 million total for that group, is 17.9 million. So you're getting good value out of your man Darnell at 850. Marquise is at 987. So is Damiere. Riley Ridley at a little over $1 million, and Javon at, again, 900,000 in that area. So 22.7 sounds like they put a big investment into their wideouts, but most of that went, or at least as far as the cap hit for 2021, most of that is going to Allen Robinson. So
yeah, I could be wrong, but I think they put the tag on Robinson. I believe he was an unrestricted free agent this year, and they knew they had to hold on to him.
Okay.
They had to, you know what I mean? They knew they had other areas that they had to fix in either free agency or in the draft. So they couldn't afford to let a top-notch guy like him get away. It makes sense.
I'll take a second look into that just to see, because I'm not sure. In a situation where you tag somebody, I guess they have to take that cap hit in the same year, because you don't even know if he's going to be in there next year. True. So tag him for that. But that means that wide receiver cap money is up around 17 mil, closer to 18 mil.
Yeah, I'm not 100% on that, whether they tagged him or not. I kind of think I remember reading that, but
that'd be interesting. That'd be interesting.
But he's worth every penny.
As long as he stays healthy, as long as he stays healthy. All right. And it also is interesting to see how they're going to use that wide receiver core, because again, if you think about Andy Dalton throwing to a lot of short, fast guys, I don't know. I think he's more looking for that quick pass. He's going to be, short passes, and those guys, I don't know if they're really known for that. Darnell Mooney, maybe. You have to see how he does in that role. All right. Who is up next?
Up next, number 21 is the Carolina Panthers. Number 21, huh? So the Panthers were a bottom 10 receiving core in 2019, but they finished top 10 last season, thanks mostly to the arrival of Robbie Anderson, who I believe came over from the Jets. He had 95 catches for 1,096 yards, and also a breakout season from Curtis Samuel. He has 77 catches for 851 yards as the slot guy. Samuel moved on in free agency to Washington, but fear not, unquestioned number one, DJ Moore is still around. So you got a nice 1-2 punch with DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson. Let's see. Who's going to fill that third slot role? That'll be a battle between free agent signee David Moore, who was pretty solid in limited action with the Buffalo Bills. So he comes over in free agency. And they got a rookie second rounder, Terrence Marshall. Terrence Marshall comes with a pretty nice college resume. So they're going to battle it out for some snaps. But DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson can make a lot of trouble for some secondaries out there. So yeah, the Panthers have a nice receiver core. They have a nice receiver core, and they got some guys with some really good potential. They could be dangerous. I'm just hoping that Christian McCaffrey comes back healthy and right back where he left off.
All right. Interesting distribution. They have a $22.7 million cap hit. 12 of it's going to Robbie Anderson, but 3.7 and 3.5 respectively going to Curtis Samuel and DJ Moore. 1.6 and 1.0 for going to David Moore, and Keith Kirkwood I have listed to round out the 6 at 780. So nice distribution. Obviously,
and Samuel's gone.
Did he go?
Yes.
All right. Who's filling in for him? Any idea? I mean, you said DJ Moore, David Moore, Terrence Marshall.
I said DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson are the 1-2 definites.
Okay.
Then you're looking at David Moore, Terrence Marshall.
All right.
Terrence Marshall's the rookie, second rounder. So they expect to get something out of a second rounder. David Moore is a veteran who was a solid player, part-time for the Buffalo Bills.
You know where Curtis went?
Curtis Samuel went to number 20, the Washington football team. Let's move on to number 20.
There you go.
Nice segue, brother.
Man, thank you.
Curtis Samuel, after his breakout season in Carolina, is now playing alongside Washington's unquestioned number one option, Terry McLaurin. I love Terry McLaurin. Real nice route runner. So with Samuel in the slot, this is going to allow McLaurin some more big play opportunities, and he is definitely a big play opportunity type of guy. He didn't have all those opportunities last year, but he should have them now with Samuel coming out of the slot with him. They got another steady slot man, Adam Humphries, who's coming over, I believe, from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's possible he was with somebody else last year, but I remember him with the Bucs for quite a few years. Pretty speedy guy, good hands. He should get plenty of snaps. Third round rookie, Dyami Brown is a potential vertical threat, so I'm sure they're going to give him some opportunities. He'll probably have to fight it out with Humphries. But the good thing is I believe Brown can play inside and out, and he's got great speed. So they should all contribute. Washington football team they're building a nice little squad, man. As a Giants fan, I got to keep one eye on them. I really do.
Yeah, that's a division opponent. And interesting, they're at 9.9 million total with Curtis Samuel taking 3.7 million of it. I must have had a brain fart somewhere in there when I was putting that together. But in any event, yeah, Terry McLaurin, Adam Humphries at a little over 1, and Cam Sims I have listed. He's still there, I hope.
Yes, Cam Sims is still there.
I
didn't mention Cam Sims' name, but he did get playing time last year, and he's shown flashes of being a pretty good player too. So again, like I said, they've got plenty of depth. This is a team with lots of depth. All these dudes can play. And they've got possession type guys. They got guys that can work the slot and get the short to intermediate, and they've got a couple of burners. So, whoever turns out to be the quarterback there, be it Fitzpatrick or Heineke, they've got lots of weapons. No excuses there. No excuses there. The Washington offense is coming along. They've done a good job building their team. They started with the defense. They started up the middle and from the front with the line, and they're working their way back. Washington is a team to watch out for.
All right. Washington is a team to watch out for. All right. Is there another team coming up that we have to watch out for, Ben?
Well, some people would say no because of that, but I will say yes because of the wide receiver core. And that's what we're talking about. So number 19 is the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I will start off by saying if Ben Roethlisberger is right and the run game gets going, the Steelers wide receiver core could be extremely explosive. Now, Juju Smith-Schuster did not play up to expectations last year, but he's a solid slot receiver. Deontay Johnson is a very good route runner and very dangerous in the short to intermediate game, but he's got to clean up some drop passes, which I'm sure he's a young player. He can work on that. Chase Claypool had a strong rookie season. So this guy is just going into his second year. He was strong. In fact, he led all rookie receivers with 9 touchdowns last year. And with his size and his speed, the sky's the limit. So this is a strong, young receiver core. Let's face it, Juju ain't been around that long. He's the elder statesman, you know? The only question is, can they get enough out of the run game because of the offensive line? And can that offensive line also protect Roethlisberger, who I've seen pictures of him? He looks like he's in pretty good shape. He's lost weight. Obviously, he's not going to move any better than he's been moving. But if they can keep him upright, Pittsburgh will be dangerous. Again, the AFC North is going to be a rough division.
Well, they're enjoying a very low cap hit on this group of receivers at a little over 8 million. Juju is 2.4. Everyone else is around the 1 mil, and Cody White is at 600,000. So they're not putting out a lot of money. If they get good production out of this in this potentially final season, and I get a feeling that most of these contracts aren't real long either. So you might see some transition over the next year or two.
Well, Claypool's definitely still on his rookie deal, and I think Deontay Johnson might be just coming up on the end of his.
Okay. All right. That's going to be interesting. Okay. There you go with the Steelers. Got a lot of Steeler fans on the Crystal side of the family. You know.
Oh, okay.
Funny thing about my oldest son Barry, when he was a little kid, I'm like 3, 4. Remember when we were living on, Rodney Street? He was the biggest Steeler fan. And then I don't know what happened. One day he became an Eagle fan. It was like, and I'm like, when did this happen? He just, boom. He had all types of Steeler gear when he was a kid, man. I'm telling you. We went from
I don't know what to say.
6 Super Bowls to 1 Super Bowl.
I don't know what happened there. He was young. He got influenced.
He was influenced.
Yeah.
All right.
Well,
the next team has a few new influences. Let's talk about them.
Yeah, this is an interesting team. This is an interesting wide receiver core to talk about. Again, these are rankings by Pro Football Focus.
What number are we at?
We're at number 18, and we're talking about the Arizona Cardinals. And this is a team that could really go up or possibly go down, depending on a few factors. First of all, when DeAndre Hopkins signed with the Cardinals last year, he obviously made this receiving core better. Even with Larry Fitzgerald still around, he was a big upgrade. But he was used more as a possession guy than a downfield option. So they lacked a downfield option. AJ Green had a mediocre season for him last year in his last year with Cincinnati after a major ankle injury. And we know that sometimes major ankle injuries and major knee injuries, it's the second year back from the injury as opposed to the first year back where guys that play receiver and or running back really start to come back and show what they were. So he's 2 years removed from that at this point. He's now with the Cardinals. And he's basically taken legendary Larry Legend Fitzgerald and his place. So the team can have a bounce back year if in fact AJ Green really gets himself together. DeAndre's not a guy you got to worry about. But if AJ Green can really bounce back, that's going to mean a lot toward this group. Christian Kirk was expected to be the vertical threat last year. He actually played pretty poorly in that role. He will now compete with second-round rookie Rondale Moore, who's very small, but very fast and a very explosive playmaker. So Christian Kirk needs to get himself together. He's been on the team. He knows the system. He's been there for a couple of years now. But they felt the need to bring in Rondale Moore. So he's going to have to watch his back and work a little harder because this team needs a deep threat, a consistent deep threat. Obviously, DeAndre Hopkins can run the entire route tree, but, you know, most of the time you see him catching those sideline passes, moving the chains, making the big play over the middle, you know, and in the red zone, obviously. But they got to get somebody that can stretch the field and come up with a bomb for a touchdown every once in a while. That's why they brought in Rondale Moore.
But they had Andy Isabella, Ben.
I'm sorry, I did not mention Andy Isabella. Andy Isabella is basically just a slot guy. More because of his size will probably be basically a slot guy, which is going to kind of squeeze Isabella's snaps. Yeah, I don't see Rondale Moore as an outside guy, but see, that's where Christian Kirk may have his in, you know, because he can play inside and out. He's going to need to step up. But Andy Isabella is probably a guy that they're going to keep around for depth. He'll get some plays. He'll get some opportunities. Andy Isabella is pretty fast.
Isabella is pretty fast. Let's see. $22.4 million cap hit between Hopkins, Green, Kirk, Isabella, Moore, and I have Kasim Johnson listed also here. He's low man on the totem pole at about 900. Andy and Rondale are about 1.2, very close together between the two of them. Christian Kirk and AJ Green at 3 and 3.5 milk. And then you have DeAndre at 12 and a half. So he's the big piece of that 22.4 mil cap hit that they took here. And he is the sideline specialist, as you were saying. I mean, that guy knows how to go up and use that sideline like nobody's business. So, you know, and he had the catch of the year. Wasn't that the catch of the year last year?
Arguably, that was the catch of the year. He's got the toe tap down, bro.
Man. Yeah. Okay. That takes care of my division opponent with my Niners, who gladly haven't been mentioned yet.
Right. They haven't been mentioned yet, but we've named a couple of your opponents here in the bottom half. So that should make you feel good. Now we got two more teams left, number 17 and number 16. Number 17, the Atlanta Falcons. Possibly a surprise to some folks that they're that high. Believe it or not, the Falcons wide receiver core was ranked top 5 last year. Now that Julio Jones has moved on to Tennessee, Calvin Ridley moves up to the number 1 guy. And he's coming off a career best season with 1,374 yards on 65 catches for first downs. 65 first downs. That's big time. And 1,300 yards is nothing to sniff about. He is definitely a number 1 wide receiver. Let me see. Russell Gage played well as the number 3 guy last year. Now he's going to have to move up to number 2. So even with Julio and Calvin Ridley on the team last year, Russell Gage pulled down 72 catches and he had 4 touchdowns. But he's going to be expected to do a little bit more this season. So we'll see if he lives up to those expectations. Now, we've been talking about depth and they got fast guys and this guy plays out of the slot and all that stuff with these other teams. But the X factor on this team is not your classic wide receiver. He is listed as a tight end and his name is Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts is the rookie tight end, first-round draft pick who could and should line up everywhere in the formation. This guy can play inside, outside, the slot, in line. wherever you want him to. He can beat corners, he can beat safeties, he can beat linebackers, he can beat slot corners. The guy's tremendous. He's having a great camp. He's slicing and dicing these guys in the secondary. I think Kyle Pitts is the number 1/number 2/number 3 receiver on this team. Okay. I think they're going to use him that much. And he's an obvious red zone threat. Now, where they get their depth from, I don't know. I'm sure since you have guys' salaries, you'll mention some names that I didn't mention. But these 3 dudes are going to carry this team.
So your big 3 are, one more time?
Calvin Ridley, Russell Gage, and Kyle Pitts.
I got it. I got Falcons at 8.9 mil total for their cap for this group. So this is kind of in line with what you're talking about. You said to name some people you probably hadn't even thought about or heard, all under $1 million at Olamide Zacchaeus, Frank Darby, Tajay Sharp, and Christian Blake. So
exactly. Now, why would I ever mention one of them over Kyle Pitts? There you have it.
Again, and then we have Calvin Ridley at 3.4 and Russell Gage at 2.2, making up the 8.9. So, like you said, they don't have a lot invested in this group of wide receivers. And so Kyle Pitts has his work cut out for him. All right. So much fun with that. We're going to make the big jump, I see, in terms of total cap hit. Tell us about this next group of receivers.
This next group is number 16. That would be the Los Angeles Chargers. Let me just start off by saying their quarterback, Justin Herbert, is one of my favorites. Okay. This guy made a big leap really fast, and I expect him to do nothing but get better and better. So these guys will be the beneficiary of that. Number 1, Keenan Allen is an excellent route runner, and he's the clear number 1 option on this team. He caught 100 balls last season, but he didn't quite eclipse the 1,000-yard mark. So his yards per reception could use improvement, but without a doubt, he's the best route runner on the team, one of the best route runners in the league, sure-handed, can dice up any secondary. Mike Williams is the downfield threat. He averages 16 yards per catch over the last 3 seasons. So he's been consistent over the last 3 seasons with 16 yards per catch. That is nothing to sneeze at. The X factors on this team are 2 young players, and both of these players have been on the team, didn't get a lot of opportunities, but made the best out of the opportunities that they got. That would be Tyron Johnson, who actually averaged 19.9 yards per catch, and Jalen Guyton, who averaged 18.3 yards per catch. Both of those averages are better than Mike Williams, but obviously Mike Williams being the number 2 guy on this team, a better route runner probably than those 2, has gotten more opportunities. But these guys are waiting in the wings and ready to explode as deep threats. And when I say deep threat, I don't mean take the top off guys. I'm talking about deep threats to catch deep balls and score deep touchdowns. This wide receiver group is very deep, very talented.
34.6 million total cap hit, of which Mike Williams and Keenan Allen are about half of that at 15, about 15.7 for both of them. Everyone else is under $1 million there. So the big 2, your boy Herbert's got 2 serious receivers right there. And they got rid of a few of their tight ends. We won't get into tight ends too much, but they have Tyron Johnson, Jalen Guyton, KJ Hill Jr., and Jason Moore. That's who I have listed beyond the big 2 there. So I am interested to see how the Chargers continue. And again, they have a new offensive coordinator. Am I not correct?
Yes, they do.
All right. So that's another X factor in how their offense performs. But you got a $34.6 million wide receiver room there, of which, again, Keenan Allen and Mike Williams are about half. Okay. Okay, Benny. So that wraps up the bottom half of the wide receiver rooms. Anything surprise you out of that grouping?
Oh, there were several surprises. I'm not going to go over each and every one because this is the bottom half. Let's face it. A couple of those teams I think should have been rated higher. A couple of those teams I think should have been rated lower. A couple of those teams I believe will improve. And a couple of those teams I believe will suffer.
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 Wow. Okay. Okay. All right. And again, we had a range of contract hits. Low, I think the Steelers are at about 8 million, and the high with the Chargers was at about 34.6 mil. So wide range in the cap hits for this. I don't know how that's going to affect everybody, but some of them had some depth issues that you brought up, and some of them had some lower paid guys that they were getting some really good value out of. And so that's very interesting. All right. Next week, we'll have the top half of the wide receiver rooms in the NFL. Let me again mention, this is Ben and Barry on football. You can find us at www.benandbarryonfootball, as well as YouTube, Facebook, podcast. That would be Apple, Spotify, and Anchor, and other social media. All right, Benny, what we do at the end of this is we basically hit a few quick talking points from our Facebook page. So ladies and gentlemen, remember, you can always go to Facebook and touch base with us, and also Twitter. All right, so first up, I took a look at the Chicago Bears. I mean, the preseason game with Justin Fields, he made a couple splash plays. He made a really great play. It's interesting to see what the ability to run does to a defense and their reactions and stuff. I mean, that one touchdown pass he had where he threw it back across, and the tight end that caught it basically walked backwards into the end zone. To me, it was so perfectly set up by his running. So when he looks like he's going to do something, that defense really got focused in on. Now, again, they probably backups and everything, but they were focused, and that really sucked them all in on that play. Just so happened when I was looking, they're still looking at Andy Dalton as a starter in front of him. And strangely enough, Nick Foles behind him. And I just thought, man, between Andy Dalton and Nick Foles, when I look at the two of them, 29 years of NFL experience, that rookie has an opportunity to just, pull as much as he can from. What do you think about that?
As far as the experience that's in the room with him that he can pull from, I think that's a great thing. Nick Foles, I'm sure, can tell him a lot. Nick Foles has a Super Bowl ring. He started in the Super Bowl and beat the Patriots. He's been around. Andy Dalton can talk to him about, being a young player coming in, expecting to have to start right away and be named the face of the franchise early on, and the highs and lows that come with that. So yeah, sure. There's a lot of information to be garnered from all that experience. But the bottom line is, if you look at skill sets, Justin Fields potentially has the greatest skill set of the three of them. Nagy has Foles there because he was there before. He's a reliable backup. He's played his best ball as a backup, not as a starter, not as a full-time starter over a season. And he's got Andy Dalton there to start. And until Justin Fields either proves in practice and in film study that he's completely ready, because he's already physically ready, but he's completely ready mentally, they won't even consider putting him in. But what their timetable actually is hard to say. The coach is not going to let you know that. He's not going to say, as soon as Andy stubs his toe, I'm going to put Justin in there. He's not going to say, if Andy goes down in week 2, I'm going to put Justin in. He's not going to. Has he even mentioned who's number 2 and who's number 3?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think he has either.
They're really playing that game tight, you know,
Absolutely.
to the best.
Absolutely. Which is, I would do the same thing. They're going to be caught. I would do the same thing because you don't want to give out too much information because the media is going to run with every single thing you say. If you say, I expect that going into week 1, Andy Dalton is our unquestioned starter and Justin Fields will be the backup and Nick Foles will be number 3. If you say that, they're going to take that and they're going to twist that into a whole nother story. If you say the opposite, if you say Nick Foles is the backup and Justin Fields will be number 3, what that means to the media is Justin Fields isn't going to get many snaps. As a starter, hardly any, if any, and as a backup, barely any. And they would think, well, how smart is that? This guy's a first-round pick. You know what I mean? So they're going to, I would, if I was him, I wouldn't say any more than I've already said. Andy Dalton's my starter until I say he's not. That's it.
Well, it's an interesting group of profiles, types of quarterback, with Andy Dalton being more of your pocket quarterback. So, I mean, if you were to learn anything, Justin, is that pocket work, you know, from an Andy Dalton, if I'm watching him in the pocket, you know, assuming that he's doing what he's supposed to be doing in the pocket. But the other thing that I think might be really interesting is to see Justin Fields. I don't know how good he is at RPOs, but if there was one thing Nick Foles could do, it was run an RPO. And I remember we talked about that in that Super Bowl run, and I didn't really feel at the time that the defenses were really prepped to handle the RPO that was coming from Nick Foles. You know, back in the day when he first came in, you had, you know, just the run option. Then everybody realized Nick Foles couldn't actually run. So the RPO was like the next best thing, where it wasn't Nick that was threatening to run. It was him threatening to hand the ball off, looking like kind of like a play action, but really as an RPO, you know, he's looking not so much just to fake the handoff, but really to read, you know, that line and then make that decision at the line of scrimmage. You know, am I going to hand this ball off, or am I going to get this pass off to somebody else? More so than you know, a play action where you fake it and drop back and all of that kind of stuff. So, you know, I think that would be an interesting skill set that he could glean from Nick Foles, because he was very good at that, you know. So it'll be interesting. You know, he could potentially come out of this really richly educated. I'll say it that way, you know, if you were able to take advantage of that. Okay. Next up on our page, Tim Tebow was released. Urban Meyer said it was the right thing to do. We questioned whether it was the right thing to bring him in the first place. I don't know if you had a chance to see him in the preseason game whiffing on some of those blocks, but his blocking ability lacked severely. And if it was one thing that made him stand out as a candidate to be cut, I think it was his ability to block. What do you think about that?
I believe that when they signed him, I questioned it right away for several reasons. Number one, he's 34 years old. Number two, he played quarterback for most of his life, and he wasn't really that great at that in the Super Bowl. No doubt, he was a great college quarterback, but that was mostly because he was in a great situation with a great team and a great head coach who ran a system that catered to his skills. His one bright shining moment in the NFL was with Denver when he led them to a playoff game or to the playoffs with a very exciting game over somebody, I think it was the Steelers or somebody, that was totally improbable, and somehow he pulled it off. Other than that, this guy has been average at best. He's tried to make it in Major League Baseball and could barely get out of the minors. And then he comes back and says, I'm going to put on a little weight and I'm going to come back as a tight end, knowing that he had a good opportunity with his ex-college coach picking him up because nobody else was going to do it. Okay. And give him an opportunity. This dude's got an opportunity after opportunity after opportunity. He has played his name to the utmost. I can't hate on him for that. Okay. But there was no way he was going to make it as a tight end. No freaking way. First of all, have you ever heard anything about him having hands? Two reasons. Number one, because he's never been in a position to have to prove that he's got good hands. And number two, he ain't got good hands. So, I mean, you know what I mean? Because if he did, right off the bat, we'd have been hearing about. And by the way, Tim Tebow, who's now trying out for tight end with the Jacksonville Jaguars, is catching the ball all over the place. Did you hear anything like that from the media? No. All right. So now he gets in a preseason game and he can't do the rudimentary blocking schemes that a tight end is responsible for. And in fact, looks silly trying to. You got to let him go. You got to let him go. Not to mention the pressure from the media and the speculation of the pressure from players who have friends, ex-teammates that are sitting out there trying to get a job. And tight end is possibly the position that they actually play. It's too much. Urban Meyer did him a solid, gave him a shot. He didn't come through. He failed miserably. It was time for him to go. Bam, that's it.
You know, it's interesting when you mention that because I don't know who the guys were. And I'm just saying if I can maybe pull it up real quick. Behind him, I mean, whose position was he? Who was he going to displace at tight end? That's, you know, who are the guys that were going to lose?
If I'm not mistaken, he wasn't number one on the depth chart any doggone way because we just did the tight end rooms the other day, and I'm sure I mentioned somebody in there that was a starter.
I'm seeing names as
I'm gonna be able to find it before you do. This is crazy. Like
I'm seeing names as varied as a
Tebow,
Luke Farrell, Tyler Davis, James O'Shaughnessy, Ben Ellefson. So they don't have a lot of big name guys that were gonna, you know, that he was competing against. But long story short, I'm with you completely. You know, there's no way in the world he should have been there. Okay, next up and next to last.
I'm still looking because I'm mad. Go ahead, keep going.
I was wondering what you were doing over there. Congrats to Jamal Adams. 4-year, $70 million extension. I mentioned him in the beginning of the show because it was interesting to me that his cap hit went before the new contract was at $9 million, and then after the new contract it was at $5 million. So that was a win-win right there for Jamal Adams. You mentioned something about his coverage skills last week, I do believe. Or am I wrong about that?
I believe I did say that his coverage skills were a little bit shaky.
A little shaky, yeah.
I'm paraphrasing myself. I don't think I used the word shaky then, but I'm using it now. His strength is playing in the box and rushing the passer. That's what they got him for. That's what he does. And he's really, really good at it.
Okay. Well, that's what he does. And he is really, really good at it. And he made a demonstrative difference in the play of the Seahawks defense. You know, when he joined that defense last year, it was, you know, shades of that previous, you know, defense that those guys had, you know, when they were competing at the highest level for Super Bowls. All right. Finally, I saw this and I just thought it was an interesting footnote. We talked like earlier in the show about Corey Clement and Dari Ogunbowale and the challenges of making a career in the NFL when you're healthy, or, you know, beside being injured, you know, you're generally in good health. And I saw this story and it was interesting. I had a sort of a similar situation happen in my family in terms of what happened. Let's just talk about real quick. Vikings linebacker Cameron Smith, who at 24 retired. He had open heart surgery, tried to come back, and in trying to come back, he actually suffered a concussion. The interesting thing about the open heart surgery, and this is his Twitter, where he basically said that he just thought he asked his body to do too much. But what happened was he got COVID. And then the COVID treatment protocol, they tested his heart and found out that he had a condition where he was born with 2 aortic valves instead of 3. And it was like, man, you know, he's trying to make an NFL team. He wasn't getting a lot of play anyway. He was selected in the 5th round. So he was actually drafted in 2019, and he only played in 5 games and mainly as a backup. He was a 4-year starter at USC. So as a 4-year starter with USC, they never picked that up, you know, and you mentioned that question is like, how did he get through that much career with nobody picking that up?
It's amazing. It's amazing. First of all, it's amazing that the condition itself didn't show up in some other way, like maybe a rapid heartbeat or maybe a murmur or something that would make him think, you know, or make his parents even think, like when he was in high school, or because he had this from birth, okay? When he was just playing around or playing Little League, or he was in high school or he was in college, that would make them say, hey, send this kid for an EKG or send him for an echo and see what's going on just to make sure that he's cool, you know what I mean? Because I remember in high school being sent to the nurse and then having them tell me, go to your, you know, your doctor and get yourself an EKG just to make sure that we're 100% clean. It's amazing that he got this far without this being discovered. This is major. 2 aortic valves. That's like your main valve to your freaking heart. That's crazy. But if any good stories come out of COVID, this is one, because who knows what would have happened to this guy if he just continued to play like this. I have no idea what effect this could have had on him at the pro level. Obviously, he's been cool all this time, but who's to say? That's crazy. I've never even heard of this condition. Never heard of this condition. Not that I should have. I'm not no doctor or nothing, but I've never heard of this condition. This is weird.
It is. And let's see here, just taking a quick look at what they called it. They did have an actual name for it here. And rather than screw it up, I kind of just jumped past it. But long story short, here it is. Bicuspid aortic valve. So I guess it should have been a tricuspid, and it's only a bicuspid. So very interesting story. I just thought it was so dramatic. And then at 24, this young man retires from the NFL. So it ain't easy, folks. You know, that's some big money. And, you know, there's a lot of guys going after it. But it ain't easy to get, and only a few are going to be chosen. I think they've gone from the 90-man roster down to the 85-man roster. To me, this is the bittersweet part of the season, when people's dreams get dashed or just really strained, as a matter of fact, because they're looking for that big payday. And you look at an Ogunbowale, you know, who's been through so many different teams, you know, practice squads and things of that nature after having a pretty good college career. So it ain't easy, folks. All right. That's all I got, Benny. Anything from you?
No, actually, I don't have anything to say other than, Philly Bowl was last week. flag football fans out there. Let me see if I can get this correct. UTC, which is the Untouchable Falcons from Philadelphia, won the 8-man pro division.
Philadelphia in the house.
Yes, Philadelphia in the house. Coincidentally, the Untouchables from Baltimore won the comp division, which is basically Division II. I believe the Highlanders won the 7-man division. They are from Delaware, but they have in fact played in the PTTFL in Philadelphia. So there were a lot of teams represented, a lot of areas represented, some great football played. It was a wonderful weekend.
Nice weather.
No, it was not nice weather, bro. It was hot than a mug out there, especially Saturday. Sunday wasn't too bad.
Okay, that's maybe what I'm thinking of, Sunday.
Oh, yeah, Sunday was cool. Saturday was ridiculous. Okay, but tournament, well done, ran on time, good referees, only one major fight. That's big. Hardly any even scuffles. It was some great football all the way around. So flag football is alive and kicking on the East Coast, and I'm very happy to say that I'm a part of it. This weekend coming, this Sunday, the PTTFL will open up. It's opening day on Sunday, the 22nd. Will be at Simons Recreation Center, and schedules in. And I guess I got practice tonight, so I'm going to say go Noles.